sitting right next here. She's agreed to lend her time for an hour tonight. So she's worked in Hollywood for over 25 years. She's cast and discovered big names like Jessica Alba, Brad Pitt, Scarlett Johansson, Heath Ledger. List goes on and on. She's a producer and delivered instant movie classics like The Patriot, While You Were Sleeping, Evita, The Horse Whisperer. She also ran her own production company for 10 years before moving on to hold the position as Executive Vice President of Hollywood Pictures. And then after Hollywood Pictures, she moved on to Tristar Sony Pictures Entertainment. She's also created an online platform called Big Is Good TV. She's going to speak a little bit about tonight. And she's worked with all of the stars that you've seen. So she's worked with Mel Gibson, Diane Keaton, Sandra Bullock, Robin Williams, Jennifer Connelly, et cetera, et cetera. List goes on and on. And she's been providing audiences with entertainment for over 25 years. So please help me give a warm welcome to Lauren Lloyd. The structure of tonight, what we're going to do is, I know you guys came up with some questions. I'm gonna go ahead and have Lauren tell you a little bit of snapshot about her story, and then we'll get into the questions that you guys created. If we have extra time at the end, we can take some questions from some additional questions from you guys. So I'm going to turn it over to Lauren.
Okay, hi. So who are actors, directors, writers? Are you all everything? Aren't you guys fancy? I'm none of them. Anyway. Okay, so I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Let's hear it. Mount Lebo. All right. Anyway, and even as what?
Penguins, go Penguins.
Wait, did they win?
Yeah. Well, we won there. We got one more.
And are we winning?
Yeah.
Where in Pittsburgh are you from?
Mount Lebanon.
Oh, nice.
Wait, where are you? And I went to Carnegie Mellon.
My aunt lives in Bridgeville. I used to work in Carnegie.
Oh, yeah. See, I have friends here
Yeah,
already.
Pittsburghians.
Yes. You going downtown?
Yeah,
that's the way we also speak.
Get some pop?
Yeah. All right, so I was always putting on little shows and charging money. So I knew I was a producer as opposed to maybe a writer or whatever. But I went to Carnegie Mellon, majored in directing. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. All I wanted to do was come to Hollywood. So I came to Hollywood in '81. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anyone. So there was that. But I also sold my car to get to Hollywood. And so I thought, okay, here's lesson number one. Think outside the box. All right? No matter what, there's a way to get to something, and you'll figure it out. So my way was like this. I thought, I need a car to get around to all my interviews so I can get a job. And I need to meet people. So I thought I'm going to sell cars, high-end cars, because people in Hollywood that I want to meet are successful and they make money and they'll buy some cars from me. All right. So that seemed like a really good plan. So I walked down to room in BMW, every day, saying I'd like to sell cars. And this was like in the 80s, you guys. Was anyone alive in the 80s here?
Yes, alive.
All right. Very few of you. Well, let me tell you, in the 80s, women weren't allowed to do anything. And so they said, girls don't sell cars. And I was like, what? So every day I came down. I would bring lunch sometimes, like, hey, guys, let me sell a car. And they'd be like, get out of here. So finally, someone came on. I said, let me sell this person a car. And I sold a car. Boom, they hired me, sold a bunch of cars. And I sold a car to an agent, Chris Barrett, who helped me get a job in casting. So I did some casting, and we can get into that a little bit later. I did a lot of casting. But I thought, I did a lot of casting. I got a job as a casting director at Warner Brothers, and I cast a bunch of stuff. But I knew I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to be the storyteller, So I thought, well, what do we need? You need a script. You need like a famous person, right? And then someone will give you money. All right. So that was my recipe for producing. So I tracked down Wally Nacita, who was a very famous casting director, and I said, this is what we should do. You know famous people, and I can get a script. And because she was so advanced and so many years ahead of me, very established person, I said, and I'll be your associate, because, I had only been an assistant. So she said, no, we'll be 50-50 partners, and that changed my life. So that was one thing. So we made 6 movies, I think. Every one of them was every Friday. I thought, I'm going to die. I literally, and I had a journal, and it was basically about death, about how I was going to live through this, but it was about death. So, all right, so there, you do ask a question about my favorite project, so
Yes.
I'll wait to
Yeah.
get to that. Everything I did was as sensible as thinking I can meet people in Hollywood by selling cars. All the moves I made were as sensible as that one. Okay? Because, you figure out, I want to get there. How am I going to get there? Because there are a lot of ways. And everybody in Hollywood's going to say, you can't do that. You can't, you can't. They'll say no. They'll say no to you. I think being as brave and as flamboyant as possible and as passionate as possible is the way to go. I think a passionate person in the room wins. So step that up in your game, okay? All right, so I made a bunch of movies. Then I thought, and I'll get into the movies because the way I put them together were just like, okay, that's crazy, but it was not in my brain. So I thought at a time we were making movies, I was having difficulty with Wally, and so I thought I want to be a studio executive. So I went over to Hollywood Pictures and I met with Jeff, Katzenberg and Ricardo Mestris, and they said, I kept saying, I'm not Wally, but I'm cheap. So they brought me over. I wanted to be a producer there. They brought me over as an executive. And that was, a whole other thing. Because, as a producer, you start out with, like, what do I like? What do I like? What do I want to say? Number 2 is know who you are. Spend as much time getting to know who you are and what you believe in and what you stand for. Because literally, that's the only point of reference you have guiding yourself through this business. All right? Because it's very easy to lose what you are here to say. Who has something to say in there while they're, as far as writing, direct? You all have something to say, or you wouldn't be here, because it is painful to be here, and what you're going to be going through in your. It is. It's not easy. So know what you want to say and stick to it. So I guess one thing, I'll give an example of how I made a decision in my life that if I'm not going to fight as hard as I possibly can for a project, then what's my value? Because I'm a producer, and my job is to get something made. You learn along the way that you don't get it made often the way you want to get it made. But I went from producing where, like, I like this, I think others will like it, and I'd get the movie made, to becoming a studio executive where they don't really care what you like. In fact, at all, they don't care what you like. Your job is to get to understand who your boss is and what they like, because their job is to look at the world and see what the world likes. And I don't think it's working very well right now, but that was a big change. I'll tell you one of my little adventures when I was there, because I was unhinged. They would call me Yosemite Sam. They'd always say, just calm down. And I would be like, why? So anyway, there used to be a thing that all the male agents, right, and managers would go on this retreat where everyone would go kayaking and hiking. Can you imagine all these male agents and hiking through the woods? Anyway, I don't even want to think of that. But anyway, so they were all gone. Everyone was gone. My bosses were gone. And I read this script that I was like, oh my, on page 6, read this line where it said, like, a voiceover where this young boy is saying, I would look into my mother's eyes and see what kind of a man I would become. And I was like, oh, we got to make this movie. So I thought, well, who do I take it to? All my bosses are gone.